Yep, you bet.
Get someone waiting.
One person waiting. We got Maryland. So who do we got then? From finance, we got Maryland on there.
I'm online.
There's
Maryland.
Maryland. Where's Laram?
Kitchen's on there.
There's Laram.
There's Laram.
So what we did yesterday is just go through, basically, I got someone labeled iPad. Anybody using the iPad? Is that whip?
Right, man.
My number is A15-306-4208.
Okay, okay, we'll skip that one then. 815-626-1277.
So that'd be Whipley. That'd
Okay,
be Whipley. That's Matt. Sheila.
You know,
Yes.
okay.
you
Thank
have
you.
a lot of paper.
We're just renaming your description so we know who everybody is.
You hand out a lot of paper.
No.
All right. I have 815-284-5201. 284-5201.
That's Stacy.
Stacy, okay, thanks,
I
Stacy.
put your, on your desk, did you take the notes
No,
already? Can you put it on your desk?
okay.
Again.
Well, I just said,
Okay, next we've got 815-677-3214. 677-3124.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Okay, it's Terry.
Okay, thanks, Terry.
Yep.
All right, next we have 815-440-0487.
Probably at Trucking Road.
Dave,
Thanks, Judy.
sometimes toward the end of the day, or after the meeting, I don't chat.
Wait, Cheryl, we got more people coming in, so give me a minute here. We have 815-440-0622.
Shelley Dallas.
Shelley,
Good morning.
morning. All right, that's Shelley. And then we also have 288-3024.
Good morning, guys. This is Wendy.
All right, hey, Wendy. Okay. I don't see any more participants.
So will you read down the list?
So make sure I got, the iPad I think was whipped.
I did not.
Okay.
I got them right here.
You guys good with that?
Will you read them? I can't.
Tom Kitson?
Yeah.
Judy Truckenbrod? Shelley Dallas?
Yep.
Wendy Ryerson? John Simonton?
Yep.
Marilyn Chipper?
Yes.
Stacy Stewart?
Yep.
Terry Zink?
Yep.
Whipley? Bob Gibler?
The pit bull.
Jim Wetling?
that's where money is.
There.
Larry's on it?
Yes.
Okay, on the hand, I didn't get it.
I figured it was something like that.
Thank you.
I think we got pretty much everybody so far. There's a chat.
I think everybody from finance is on, right?
Liram, are you okay? He says he can't hear everything.
Whomever has the iPad has their microphone muted as well.
Of course. Liram, are you, where's Liram at? Oh, he's calling in.
Oh, is that him at the top?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Larry.
I'm gonna bring that back over here and then I can. Okay. Liram, was that you?
Larry,
What the deal is, man,
He's talking.
get that right.
Yeah, I showed that he has no microphone.
So can he call in on his phone?
I thought he was holding his phone the other way. Look.
Yeah, he was trying on his phone.
Miriam is on.
There.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
there you go.
Oh, he's at the bottom here. He's this guy.
Well, let's go ahead and get the meeting started. It's after 9. I think we're all ready. Good morning, everybody. Anybody get a chance to look over the minutes from last month?
Yep.
Is there any corrections, changes? If none, let's let them read, stand as is. We'll go to the treasurer's financial monthly report. You want to go do Matt, or do you want to?
I think we should, let Matt talk about the audit first, if you don't mind, and then he can get on with his day.
Yep, let's go ahead. Matt, are you ready to go through the audit?
I sure am. I guess, first of all, I'm actually a little partner with Whitley. Just want to thank you for setting up this meeting using this technology. Obviously, these are a little different. Usually get to see everyone face to face. So I've been doing a few of these. I did one last night for Boone County. And all I can ask is if you have questions, feel free to chime in. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm going to do my best to note the page numbers in the report so you can follow along. I'll also try to identify which PDF page numbers we're at if you're looking up top. So,
Thank you.
sure. So the focus of my presentation is going to be more on the county financial report, but I want to let you know that, of course, we do other things than just the county audit. We do the single audit for the county. Because the county receives federal dollars, we have to come through and do specific compliance testing on those dollars. The county did receive this year $3.1 million of federal awards. As in the past, we had to test lots. And happy to report, we had no compliance findings for that audit. So they've made some great strides in improving their operation. So good job, and just keep going in that right direction. So we like to see that. Also, we do a circuit clerk audit required by state statute. Happy to report we have an unmodified opinion on that as well. So in other words, we tested the fines and fees that the office collects to make sure that they're properly assessed and distributed, and no issues there. We also give you a separate audit report for the 911. Again, happy to report we had that unmodified opinion on that audit as well. So before I get into the county report too, I always like to explain just a little bit of the overall audit process, just as a reminder to many of you on the phone call. The first thing that we do as part of the audit is we gain an understanding of the county's internal controls. And based on that, we develop further audit procedures, and we do what's referred to as a risk-based audit. So based on the nature of the transaction, we do specific tests around those transactions. So we also conduct various fraud interviews, usually at the onset of the audit. It helps us in planning our audit, just to look to see if there's anything that looks to be unusual coming from board members or employees. We also use what's referred to as materiality during the course of the audit. Materiality is the driving force that we take in using our sample selections. Of course, we don't audit every transaction that goes in and out of the county. We use materiality as a key driving force in pulling our sample down in our testing. We do confirm significant amounts of assets and revenues and expenses with outside third parties during the course of the audit. We also incorporate an element of unpredictability during the course of the audit. We like to keep people on their toes, and we ask different questions. At the end of the audit, prior to issuing our financial statements, we have an independent concurring review on the audit just to make sure we're meeting all the generally accepted accounting principles and accounting standards before we issue finals. As I mentioned, we do several Illinois county audits. We do 12 this time of year. So, our teams are very busy doing these audits. So it is kind of the conclusion of this season. So it's good to be able to present to you guys. So All right, so let's go over what's labeled financial report for the year ended November 30th, 2019. So as I mentioned, I'm going to try to lay out page numbers for everyone and then also give you PDF page numbers that are at the top of the document. So if you want to turn to pages 1 through 3, or it's PDF 4 out of 102, you'll see on top of page 2 or PDF 5 that we issued a clean, unmodified opinion on the county's financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So it's that clean passing grade that you like to have. No new standards were adopted in the current year, so that is always nice. Let's now turn to page 6. So page 6 is labeled 10 of 102 at the very top. So these are your governmental funds. And what we focus on this page are your major funds. So it's a formula based on the size of the funds. And because your law enforcement center project is very big, that's really making the other funds a little less significant than they had in the past. So as noted in here, we have your general fund. That's always a major fund. We have the rural transportation. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the law enforcement center fund too. And then we also have a column for your other governmental funds. So the key thing to look on page 6 is really down at the bottom, your fund balances. Overall, there's roughly 17 million of fund balances on hand. The majority of your fund balances are in the restricted funds. And restricted is because of the revenue source. You have to spend those monies for that particular purpose. So again, very consistent type of reporting year over year with that. Let's turn to page 8. So again, looking at these same funds from the previous page 6. So this is 12 out of 102.
Hey, Matt, can I back up this about?
Sure. You sure can.
When I look at page 6, and I just wanted to explain so everybody understands the capital project, the law enforcement, looks like the fund balance is a negative, which it is 2.2 million, but that's actually a loan from other funds, correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, there's a due to other funds of 2.6 million. We have that noted at the top under liabilities.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, so I just I knew what it was. I want to make sure everybody else knew what it was. And also,
Sure.
that's
Good point.
good because we thought we were going to start out with 3 million in loans. So we're really doing good for that. So, okay.
Okay, yep, good point. So let's turn again to page 8. So again, we focus in on these major funds and then a column for your other governmental funds to give you your total governmental funds. The line I like to point out here is the third line from the bottom. It's labeled net change in fund balance. You'll see the total governmental funds decreased nearly 6.8 million. Keep in mind, the majority of that, I'll say, net change is due to the pay down or the spend down in your law enforcement project. So if you were to pull that away, you'd be removing 7.4 million. So that's a significant amount of expenditures that were made out of that fund to construct the new jail. So I think that was anticipated. I think when we looked at last year's, it was a big increase. So again, you collect the funds and then you start to spend them down. So, right. Let's now go to some of the key footnotes. I want to push you guys back to page 23, and that's PDF 27 over 102. Note number 3 under the primary government, the custodial credit risk disclosure. Just happy to report that all of the county's bank balances were covered either by FDIC or pledge collateral in the county's name. So that is a good thing to be reassured about. Then also let's go to, sorry, was getting a phone call in. Let's go to note number 5 on page 25. So this is the IMRF pension plan. So the county has 2 plans through IMRF, the regular and then the sheriff. So So the first section of this note is the regular plan. And as noted on page 28, if you want to turn to that, the changes in the net pension liability, that's the reconciliation at the beginning of the year pension asset to the end of the year liability. You'll see that it went from a fully funded plan of roughly 1.5 million to a net pension liability of 3.1 million. Okay. And once I present the sheriff's plan, I'll kind of recap the reasons for the plans going from a funded position to a liability position. So let's go and look then at the sheriff's plan. That's on page 32. You'll see the ending pension liability on that is 3.9 million. So it's the table kind of in the middle of this page 32. So overall, when you look at these plans, the regular plan is funded at 91%. Schlep plan is funded at 81%. And when you combine total pension assets together, between the two plans, you have roughly 50 million of pension assets to pay those pension obligations. Keep in mind that those assets are invested at the IMRF Board of Trustees level. They're not in county funds. As again, I mentioned before, you may ask, well, why did the pension liabilities go up so much? The key contributing factor was the poor investment return for 2019. To remind you, this is valued as of 12/31/18, so we're always 11 months kind of in arrears with this disclosure. Again, very consistent year over year. But when I compare your net investment income between the two plans, the pension income the pension loss for investments was 2.7 million this year compared to income of 4.6 million last year. From what I'm seeing with some other clients, I am seeing that for the 12/31/19 plan years, that the plans are returning back some very significant returns. That's absent of what's going on in the market today. But as of 12/31/19, I do see about a 17 to 19% return compared to the loss that you experienced this year or so.
So those numbers, this is Maryland, those numbers next year then will look better, but then probably 2 years down the road we'll be in the tank again.
That remains to be seen. Obviously, it depends how long everyone needs to be sheltered in place and how the investments go. And but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Good question. Good comment. Let's now turn to page 39, note number 10. This is just, the recap of your long-term debt. Just to note that you guys did issue an additional 4 million of debt certificates for the new jail. And when you start to look down on the bottom of page 39, you can see that the county owes next year between principal and interest nearly $1 million of principal and interest on the bonds. Let's see, last thing to go over here. I lost my page number. So let's go to page 50. So page 50 or PDF 55 of 102. So when you look at things, how you need to look at this report here on page 55 is the line labeled net change in fund balance. So on a cash basis, the county expected the general fund to increase slightly, 197,000. And when you look at it from a cash basis perspective, it decreased roughly 29,000. So for the most part, you guys were very good in budgeting and estimating what you were anticipating to be spending and receiving. Normally I would hand out, and I didn't hand this out, but I like to give you guys the number of days in the general fund balance. So let's turn to page 68 quickly here. That kind of lets you see the numbers that I'm using for this calculation. So it's 74 of 102. So when I look at your fund balances, I compare what's in the general account. I compare the fund balance end of year, and I divide it by the total expenditure. So I take the 4,049,000 and divide it by 10,023,000 to determine what the fund balance ratio is. Then I multiply it by 365. You have nearly 5 months of fund balance on hand. And I think typically a lot of finance leaders would suggest in that 2 to 4 month range. So you've been able to continue to keep a very healthy fund balance, which is always positive. Let's see, last thing to point out.
Hang on, Matt.
Yes.
Mike
Bobby has a question.
Laram can't hear. Is there something we can do to, he's on his phone, I think, but,
Can call him somehow and just-
He can't hear on his phone.
yes, I don't see him up there now. Laram?
He's not even connected.
Let's get him going there. You know,
Oh,
somebody-
he's down at the bottom.
Hey, Larry,
But
we're gonna just put you on the phone so you can
he doesn't
hear,
have a camera on his.
unless you're able to hear through your computer. Are you okay? So you can hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Talk, budget, yeah.
Okay,
I'll hang
sorry,
on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, just one last thing to point out, and I'll go back to just real quickly, page 3, it had 30th. Paula had discussed, well, should we do the April meeting? And to you guys, well, obviously with what was going on then, we were fully intending to present in person or however we could do it. We were hoping May would be an in-person thing. So I want to make sure you're aware of all the good things that are happening and the fact that the audit is actually progressing nicely and getting done earlier than what it had been in the past. So that does speak to what the group is doing there at the county. So again, that's the reason we kind of pushed this meeting back to May, as we were hopeful to present in person. So that's all that I have. Are there any other questions or any other thing I can clarify for you?
Well, Matt, I want to go back to page 8 once, and I just want to look at our year in whole, so everybody that's listening understands. Go to page 8, the net change in fund balance, the general fund, which is basically what we pay all our bills in and out of. It looks like we had a positive $379,000 for the year. That's really good. I mean, that everybody held true to their budgets. But also we had, what, $500,000 or $600,000 that we were going to transfer that we never did. So really we had an $800,000 swing to the good last year. But so, I mean, that's all I wanted to point out, I guess. Any questions for him?
Give you that name.
All right, Matt.
A lot of cheering going on.
All right. Are there any other questions for me?
I don't have any, but I guess I'd ask the committee, how do you want him to present to the county board? Do you want him to do the same thing we did here, or
Right.
to do?
Matt, would you be available to talk to the county board next Thursday about 6?
About 6, yeah. And I think normally what I do is, and I think I've given Bob just a rundown of the audit. Is that what you would want me to do?
Yeah, why don't you do that, and then if there's any questions, I don't know if we need to present, that's what I was asking, if anybody needed them.
I think people
Sure.
would like you to, maybe not make a long presentation, but something.
Oh, yeah.
Something.
Well, I think it's important for the rest of the board members to
Absolutely.
have, if there's
Absolutely.
questions, so they can ask questions.
A dozen board members and some department heads up there, and they need to ask questions. Need to make it open as much as possible, Matt. That's why you get the big bucks to show up on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. We'll send
Sure. I
you
can
the
do
phone
that.
numbers and stuff and get it done.
Yep. Sure. Yeah, just give me the Zoom number and I can definitely call in. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Matt, thanks for your time today.
All right.
Thank you,
All right,
Matt.
thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
One thing I'd like to say, and this doesn't have anything to do with his report, is that the one thing that hasn't changed is that the good results that we've gotten, it's not only the discipline that we've had, with our department heads and everything, but we continue to live on one-time money.
Yep.
And so even though we can cheer that we're moving in the right direction and we're having good things, we still gotta recognize that one-time money is one-time money. And we still have some structural issues that we gotta work through, so.
I agree, that's it. Yeah, I'd also, this time, like, to follow up, everything was streamlined, it was the simplest, quickest audit I think the county's gone through in the last 20 years, so thank you for your office.
Many comments were made about how well it went.
Thank you. All right. Treasurer's financial monthly report.
Actually, I didn't take a lot of time to look through the monthly report. I do have some historical stuff that I was gonna touch on later in anticipation of what's happening in our economy. So if you guys look through and you had any questions, I can get back to you with answers, because I really did do a summary of what's happening right now.
I don't have any questions. You got anything you want to share, then go ahead with your other part, then I guess. No?
Let's do that later,
All right,
if that's okay.
where at, you want to do that?
I could just do it at the end, or, well, I don't care. I can jump in, I've got a lot of stuff.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Guys, we have somebody else that just joined. FYI, 815-994-6220. Maybe you were on before.
Yeah, Mike, that's the sheriff.
Oh, sorry.
We're having trouble out here, so I was on Zoom for a bit, but we just went down again, so.
All right,
Sorry.
there's no quarterly report?
Not this month, no.
Okay. No monthly resolutions? Let's go to all business. Any law enforcement center claims?
Nope.
No law enforcement, all right. Update on public defender's conference room. Dave, you want to take that?
I would say at this point, the conference room is up and running. The focus, I think, financially, improving the network over there, computer and phone situation in that building is going to be our focus for now. If the state were to loosen up with some money, there would be the possibility of either finishing the space on the third floor, or there's been some discussion about with this latest grant program of potentially building a facility at the base of the elevator if we were open to continue or do the demolition of the old LEC and put up a structure for holding inmates, secure parking for the judges, and then do EMF there, a facility of the same layout in that area. That would be a possibility right now. I don't see that as something we can take on ourselves without some help from someone. So our focus right now, practically without any grants or any money from outside, is to improve the communication ability there. And the space is the space for right now.
Can you comment?
Yeah.
Dave and I have been working extensively, I guess you could say, on getting new style of video arraignment. That's been funded through our court upgrade system. Denise McCaffrey has given the $28,000, which is the max of what it will cost to upgrade these video arraignments in all four courtrooms. That's being done as we speak. The money's there coming out of her fund. I didn't know if you were going to mention that somewhere later, but Bob and I and you talked about it. It's kind of it's money that's there strictly for that, so it's kind of a no-brain situation. And then yesterday, Dave ushered Fissick and Mike and Brian Grimm through the new and old courthouse both starting to get cost projections for the upgrade for the computer and telephone for these two buildings. And there again, Denise has brought $50,000 up out of a court modernization fund she has. Where we're going to find the other 50 is not a big deal for that, but it's going to be right around that 100,000 plus mark, I would assume, like more.
Somebody told me 200,000 yesterday.
That's what I wanted to talk to Dave about.
Yeah, I don't know where those numbers are coming from, but it's I think there's different phases of the project.
Mhm.
And, you know, to get to the phone phase, you've got to do the infrastructure phase.
Okay,
And that's,
well, after this meeting, then maybe Dave and you and I can talk, because that was the figure that was kicked around, and so
See if the sheriff is.
we'll upgrade that.
yeah. But again, I have to note that you're talking one or two different projects. We need to make sure
Mhm.
we're
It'd be
on
nice
the
if
same
you,
page.
it'd be nice if you could break them down,
Right.
do an old courthouse. and-
Well, you can't do, you have to do the infrastructure first.
Sure.
That's your first phase, no matter what building it is. And preliminary figures for the upgrades for the infrastructure, just the switches, are between 60 and 100. That's just infrastructure, switches and whatnot. Fistic came yesterday for cabling. We don't have numbers for that. And then after that, then you're talking phone system.
Yeah.
So, your the numbers are probably, my guesstimation would be 200 to 250,000 before you're all said and done.
Like Bob says, we'll break it down by phase, and then we'll know where we're at.
That was for both buildings. Both buildings are just the one building.
That's for everything, and
For
that
everything.
includes highway and animal
Oh,
control
okay.
phone system. But they are on their own, so therefore, things could change there, because they have different systems there, so.
I also did a survey out of lots yesterday.
And
Okay. But I would think they'd be up.
They are up and running, it just would be a matter of integrating with the rest of the county, does it make sense to do anything there?
Sure. John Simonton, did you have something you had on one to add to this? Do you have something you want?
No, Bob, not on this.
Okay. Okay, I just want to give you a chance to put your thoughts.
The only question I have too is after we figure out the phases or whatnot, are we going to have a plan as to far when it's gonna be implemented and things like that? Because I need a project timeline, because I have a lot of projects that are pretty important. And, Shelley, are you on?
You know what, I am, and the reason I joined today was just to give an update a little bit about our Motorola Film and Flex project.
got an
So I
email
was
on this yesterday, or
waiting
today.
for the opportunity that might be good now. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I don't know if this falls in line with what you're talking about, but wanted to give an update. We were going to try to do a project kickoff this spring with our Motorola lease agreement that the county, Dixon, and Lee County ETSB cooperatively shared costs in. Beginning December 2020, that payment is due from the county. The ETSB, although, will be paying the first installment cost by November of 2020, and then Dixon PD and Lee County, their payment will be back to the ETSB in December. We have postponed our project kickoff about 3 months right now, but in the interest of finance, obviously, I wanted to remind everybody that that is coming up in December 2020, and also that we would need IT intricately involved in the fall for this project, because it involves, Sheriff's Department, jail, 911, along with, and I've already talked to Dixon PD yesterday, I believe it was, or the day before, saying I need commitment there too, that the server implementation and all of the pieces of the Flex implementation, hopefully we can do project kickoff by September, and from then on, it's full speed ahead. So I guess this would be a good flow into that.
all right. And that's through Motorola?
Yeah, that's the Motorola Spillman project. It's a county resolution number 10-19-003.
Yep.
If that helps.
Yeah. We couldn't do anything with Motorola on this, or is that a totally different setup? We couldn't lease a phone system?
Totally different.
Okay.
I will tell you just from experience with just implementing a phone system in one building, it was a 6 month and it was a condensed timeline. A phone implementation project is nothing to, and the sheriff probably can attest to this too, which is that the LEC is huge. It is very time consuming. So I'm not trying to argue it, but ours started probably in June of 2019 and we implemented in February 2020. Granted, we had 911 involved, but a phone project of the magnitude that you were all talking about just from past experience is huge. And, you know, if that's going to overlap with the Spillman project, that might be a little bit complicated, especially for IT, just putting that out there.
Sure, sure. Well, let's continue to work on it and maybe we'll get a team together and decide what we want to do. But at 200,000, we'll have to move it over 2 budgets to make that work. I think. As Charlie's got something, you take the attorney budget you want to throw in there.
Nope, we're all used up, sorry.
All right.
And just-
Bob, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm clear though, that it was a financial obligation with 45,519.82 for 5 years. So yeah, the 227 is over a period of 5 years that the payments were to start in December. We were hoping to have the project completed by then, but we've had to push it back, but we'll need IT, you know, like I said, by early fall of this year, is when we're hoping to get that going. This COVID kind of set us back a little bit.
Sure, sure.
I was just gonna comment too, just so you guys know, the other board members or may not know. So the update, the infrastructure updates, guys, just so you know, that's not just for phones. It is for data and things like that. So it's not just for the phone system. It is something that would be very beneficial for virtually everything that we do. Security of network and reliability and everything. So that part of it is instrumental in moving forward. So there is kind of a couple phases in there, so to speak. So it's not just phone. So put that out there. Thanks. I'm done.
What's the time frame if we said okay today? Will we 6 months like she said or a year out? I mean, because our phone system.
It
really
depends.
struggles.
It depends because depends on if you can break it down into phases, it might take less time because of where you're trying to implement. But ultimately, the infrastructure part of it has to be done first. There's no way to put our new phones on our existing system. We had Fistic come through yesterday and say that this building especially, new phones would be, can't use the current cabling.
Sure.
So Mike, you said you needed from us to get further, the ball rolling is a project timeframe. So you need us to be more specific. You know, Bob mentioned that this needs to be spread over 2 budget cycles.
I think we need to come up with a project timeline, like once we get our figures of the infrastructure, the cabling, the phones, whatever, all that's involved, and then break it down into like a phase or here's what it's gonna cost, here's what we can do type of thing, so that we can kind of plan for it, so that we're all on the same page and I can make sure I get my other projects done as well.
Just from a big picture standpoint, I would say if we're trying to spread it over 2 years, which they understand, that makes a lot of sense. Possibly we could tackle the infrastructure piece of it. This building is gonna be the biggest amount of work. And it wouldn't impact people until you actually swap out the equipment. You could do all the cabling work, leave everything functioning. We could potentially spend that this year, and then what would be left would be phone piece of it for next year possibly. We just have to work with FISIC to see. I think it would be possible to do the infrastructure, the wiring in this building and such, in wiring required for that building, which is much less, probably this year, and get those expenses against this year.
But a project with these kind of numbers will all have to be let, correct?
I would think so.
So we need specifications in a project
Well,
proposal put together so that can be let out.
That's a 30-day process once you write the bid, correct? Or 2 weeks.
what could be done, and I think there's, from There's been some discussion about sole sourcing because we have a vendor that is, the Lee County has put in the LEC system. Potentially we could go that direction and that would avoid that. But there also, obviously, there's some advantage in bidding it as well. But I think BSIC has done a good job for us and it's been competitive. So I guess we'll just have to work through that process.
It would be nice to have one vendor for all buildings
Yep.
on the counter, but I understand. Are you, Charlie, with doing something like that? Or
That's fine. What my office has asked for though is, I believe there was an estimate done for what it would cost to do all of the buildings when the jail was being built. And we were just trying to get that information. I don't know if Mike has it or Sheriff has it or who does, but we were trying to get that information so we can figure out if there's a legal argument for sole source.
who would have that? You know?
I don't recall, and maybe Sheriff can refresh, but I don't recall there being a cost for the whole Lee County phone system. There was mention that he could do it, but I don't know that there was ever any cost.
That's just what I was led to believe.
Okay, I can double check with. It's been a while ago. John, do you recall anything along that line? John Simon?
I'm sorry, Dave, you were skipping quite a bit on my phone. The cost for exactly what are you looking for now?
Matt, yeah, there was thought that there was, PSIC had provided a cost for the other buildings when they did LEC. Do you recall anything like that?
I think it was a rough estimate, Dave, of somewhere around 70 to 75,000, if I recall, but I'd have to look in my notes.
Okay.
That number comes to mind.
Okay. I can check with PSIC and verify if they have any. I know they're putting something together now, but, okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, let's keep moving on. The bid and demolition of the old LEC building. I believe John Simonton.
Sure. I wish I had the asbestos update for you from Porter Brothers and Rock Falls, but I still don't. They did do a walkthrough about a week and a half ago, but with the COVID-19 issues, everybody's moving just a little bit slower. So the only cost I have for you are from Martin for the demo at $180,000, and their asbestos removal is $193,800. And that's wholly in asbestos out of Spring Grove, Illinois. And Porter Brothers' initial estimate for the demo only is $83,370. And I'm still, again, waiting for the asbestos removal estimate to give you a better number of what we're looking at. And of course, the other expenses are related to what Mike had discussed previously about his infrastructure work at the new and old courthouse, which will probably entail moving the fiber from the old LEC and doing whatever he needs to do to upgrade that as well.
What about the shooting range with the lead? Do we have to do anything special with that down there, or is that all contained? Or
That's all part of the asbestos/hazmat removal portion of their bids.
okay, so we just gotta wait till this month.
Did Greg Gates?
Yeah, I tried to push him to get it before finance this week, but unfortunately I have not received it yet.
Oh, I understand. John had a question, or
Greg Gates contacted me yesterday, and there's a new grant program coming out through, I believe it's Build Illinois or one of these, where we might be eligible to get some grant money to do some of the demolition. Starts out at $500,000, anything smaller than that you can't get, but we can get demolition out of that, we can get new construction out of that. So I have to get more information from Greg. It's still coming down the pike, but that would include demolition, new construction of jail cell, Sally Port, and potentially a new seal. And we could get up to 2.5 million.
could he write the grant, or who's?
I'll
get together.
talk to him tomorrow. We'll get it all together. See where we're at.
Get us over the.
Yeah.
He got informed of it just yesterday and forwarded it on.
I just seen that, somebody forwarded me that grant, I read it
Yeah.
last night, so it's quite.
Sounds like it's almost too good to be true, so we'll flesh it out a little bit.
What agency is that at? I didn't see it.
I don't know if it's coming out of ECCO or
I don't remember
ECO.
Okay, I'll look it up there.
We'll find out.
All right. We're good there. We'll check back next month. Retrofitting the old jail for the COVID-19 inmates. John, you wanna take that?
I'm knocking on wood right now, Bob, so far we haven't had to go that route. Appreciate the maintenance, and correctional staff getting it all ready to go, but hopefully it's all for naught. We have, been very fortunate right now to not have any inmates infected or correctional staff, so at this time it's status quo, and, hopefully we'll keep going in that direction, won't have to use that facility.
How about we already did the phone upgrades for both buildings. We're good there.
Mhm.
Let's go to new business. Set corner salary. The discussion yesterday, would come out of committee.
You want me to elaborate? The motion, if I recall correctly, was to keep Jesse's salary the same, which was 42,1.
No, I think they did an
And-
additional.
No, and I was gonna continue on.
Oh, okay,
And then
sorry.
$100 a year from then on, for the 4 years that we had to set it for. Is that what it was?
I thought the motion was to increase $100 a year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, I thought you said.
Keep his wage, start at 42,1, and then increase it $100 a year for 4 years. Is that right?
Yeah, aren't we saying the same?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I couldn't.
Well, I think
Who's still second?
did they send it to-
Yeah, we're here.
Did that committee send it to finance or did they send it? to
Yes, but
executive?
it was
Sent to finance.
ordered finance and then on to executive. So you have a decision to make. Whether or not this is-
What's your thoughts? Any discussion?
Started out at keeping it static for 4 years, but there was, I don't even know if there was a motion to that extent. I think it sat there.
No, so what Jesse had proposed, because there was a motion to keep it static, was he was hoping that there would be consideration for his deputies when budget time came around. To increase.
But that's a budget
That's-
issue.
yeah,
That's not, all we were required to do yesterday was set his wage and or increases. And the consideration for his deputies comes during the budget process.
Any discussion here or?
This is, because him being an elected official, then he's,
You gotta
This
set
Has
is
to be
his
set
cycle.
180 days
6
before he's
months
elected.
before the election.
that's right.
That's it. Okay.
So they had to do it yesterday, it has to go now, and then go before the board, so.
Sounds good.
All right.
I don't have an issue.
I'd entertain a motion then.
So move. Second.
Got a first, a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Okay, so does the motion need to be specifically that it remains
$100
42,1 and $100 every year for the next 4 years?
4 years, yes. It's in that to executive.
The question, when you say $100 for 4 years, if we're starting at 42,1 for the first year, then we're only increasing at 100 for the remaining 3 years.
It's 100 every year, so it'll be $100 increase every year
For 4 years.
for 4 years.
So we're starting him with a $100 raise.
Yes.
That was the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, that, my understanding yesterday was that we started flat for the first year, but
Yeah, this is Truck and Road.
$100.
Yes, Judy.
Okay, the motion yesterday was to start it at 42.2, 42.3, 42.4, 42.5, and the vote was 4-1 coming out of committee.
Was that your motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my second.
Yeah, there's a little communication gap going on here. Yeah.
All righty, I think that's what we all intended it to be. Thanks, Judy. All right with that? Let's back up. We never did vote on the treasurer's financial monthly report. I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Tom Kitson,
Yep.
first.
second for Shippert.
Let's vote on all those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carried.
What became the winner?
He's in
He's there. He's in the mix.
All right, let's go down to new business B, real estate tax first installment penalties. Paula, I want you to take that again.
Yes, so you had there's a resolution out there. I think I sent the resolution earlier. I don't know if that's-
On the back page of the packet.
There's one in the packet, okay. So there's a resolution out there for you to consider whether or not you want to waive real estate tax penalties for the first installment. The resolution is to waive it for the first installment, and all penalties will start with the second installment. Let me back up here first and just give you an update on tax bills. It's a related topic. Tax bills have been finished, they're at the printer, they're gonna go out on the 22nd, which is a week from tomorrow. And the due dates are June 26th and September 2nd. So that's what we're talking about. So the June 26th wouldn't accumulate any penalties if it wasn't paid until September 2nd. And then all penalties will apply to anything unpaid at that point in time. There's still deadlines, but there's not much teeth to that deadline anymore if you put this in. So the idea here was, to try to attempt to help out unemployed individuals that may need more time to try to create and pull together money for taxes. I did pull, per your request, the taxing bodies, and so you do have a document that lists whoever gave me a reply back. There was a lot of them that did not reply, and maybe got 50% of them back. And, so that summary right there is how people felt about it, how the taxing bodies felt about. So the result of this would necessarily be is that there's just gonna be, eventually we're gonna get the taxes. By November, we're gonna have all of the taxes in one way or the other. But it's gonna slow the cash flow to all of the taxing bodies. By waiving that penalty, I don't know how much that's gonna, we get about 100,000 a year out of those penalties. I don't know how much this is going to affect that. I really don't know. I threw out 50% at one point. That's a wild guess because this is unprecedented. I have no data to base any conclusions on. So some of the taxing bodies don't like that decrease in flow. The townships don't like it because they do their road work in the summer. They really don't have any money until these taxes come in. School districts, may have to do some temporary borrowing. Everybody's in a little bit different situation. So there's positives and negatives to voting for this,
Legally,
but it's up to you guys to push it forward. If you don't want to push it forward, you don't have to push it forward.
legally, you're a collector and you're a treasurer.
Yes.
As a collector, and then you disperse it, do we have to disperse all the funds equally? Or, where I'm going with that? Can we, the ones that's a burden, could we pick and choose, but do we get in trouble legally by doing that?
I have not done any research on that. I think there is possibly a way to do some advance payments to some, I don't know what the legal mechanism for that is. It sounds icky.
Yeah, I know, that's why I was like, when I asked it.
As a technical term,
Yeah.
it is icky.
Usually when I back into something, it's not good.
I would agree.
You're looking for the answer before.
Yeah, I'm looking for you to stop me before I keep going. So, what's everybody on the committee feel about this? We're speaking for all these taxing bodies. So,
Right, yes, you are. So there's one other just bit of information. I did check with the surrounding communities, counties as to what they did. Ogle and Bureau did not do any waiver. They're not going to do any sort of a waiver. They're just moving on as business as usual. DeKalb and Whiteside are voting next week. Their meeting is next week. Oh, well, it's a resolution that potentially could be out. So they're considering, I guess. Not sure what's gonna happen. LaSalle has got bigger problems. Apparently they have a malware problem. So who knows where they're at with anything. They're indeed due, so. But that's all I have to share. Now you can,
Does everybody on the committee have this? You know this?
I did email it yesterday.
All right, so
And I
Tom Kitson and Linda
apologize.
has this in front of them.
Yep. Hey, Bob, it's Tom. Looking at it, if I'm correct, there were 124 taxing bodies were asked. Somewhere around 45% responded. At least 4 of those are in Bureau and Overland County, so they'll get their money from there anyway. Their normal money, so their burden probably is less. I am concerned about the schools, but I'm really concerned about our taxpayers in Lee County who are struggling. And looking at this, about 13% are really concerned about the burden. And we're burdening them for a couple of months. As Paula said, they may borrow money somewhere else. They may just be a little tight. I still believe it's the right thing for us to do for the taxpayers in Lee County who are going to be struggling. I know some people will take advantage of us and wait. I understand that. But I firmly believe that looking at the numbers that have come back on this report, it substantiates we should still go ahead and do this.
Any other discussion? Larry, what's your thoughts?
I agree with Tom, Bob.
All right.
I think so too, and I don't know that it would help or not, but, with communicating this to the public, for those that can pay both installments up front, to help out those that aren't able to, if you could just make a public appeal, I think there would be some people that are able to do that. And if they recognize that would be helpful for the school districts and everybody's cash flow, and for their neighbor that needs that extra relief, maybe that could be part of the communication to try to pull in some of it. But I think it's the right thing to do as well.
What do you think, Jim?
Well, I'm struggling because there's a big picture here, and the replacement tax is probably, that fund is probably going, and this is for our problem as well. Replacement tax is probably going to be down next year. Income taxes are going to have, because of, so it's not just one thing. We also have to keep in mind all the ramifications that is going to happen because of this extraordinary event. I absolutely agree with the committee that our taxpayers, that this is a small gesture that we can do, but I just want the committee to really think about, it's going to be replacement tax is going to be down, coming off of the state income tax. The state is really going to struggle, regardless of what the governor says, and the additional money that was put into the schools off of the state budget. The formula for schools is going to be really at risk for this next year. So, everybody wants to help the taxpayer, me included. I just want everybody to really think through, when we start down this road, where it's going to lead us to. And again, as I said before, we had good results in our audit last year. We're feeling a little bit better about the finances of the county, but we're far from flush, and we're far from so this is a risk that we're taking. So I just want to point that out.
I think when you look at this, go ahead.
This is Marilyn. I got a question. What actually is the penalty for each installment?
It's set by statute, and it's 1.5% per month. So the first month it's overdue, it's 1.5. The second month it's 3. The third month it's 4.5.
Which is 18% annual.
Right, it's 18 annual.
So I think when we look at the big picture, there's going to be a percentage that's not going to pay them no matter what we do here, because they can't.
Yeah.
And that might be 10, 15%. There's going to be another percentage that's going to abuse this and just wait till the end. I hate to see that. So I guess, we need to help out where we can. I think everybody has got to help to get through this. I'd entertain a motion to whatever you think, if you're comfortable with it.
Can I have one other question? Is if they do not pay it at the second installment to the previous?
Right now, it is not written that it is retroactive. It could be changed to be retroactive, the resolution. Right now, the resolution is not retroactive to the first payment
So
date.
all the penalties would apply then? Or
They would not apply.
Okay, so you get off of the 3% and
Yes.
then they would start accruing. Okay, and then it seems like,
It'd actually be 4.5% by then, right?
yeah, it would
No.
normally.
No, it would start at 1.5% at that point in time, because it's not retroactive.
Bob, Jim Wentling,
Yes.
I got a question for Paula. What's the total, revenue loss that we usually receive on penalties every year? Do
We get
you
about,
have an estimate on?
we get 100,000 or so in penalties every year off of this. I don't know what the loss would be because I have no previous data to base that on. I don't know. I don't know how many people would be affected or would pay it early. I can't tell you that. I don't have enough data to calculate that.
Oh, is that 100,000, is that 100,000 for the whole year, or is it just for the first installment penalty?
It's the whole year.
So you'd still have some.
Yes, I'm sure we're still gonna have some of it.
You know, I don't see the loss to the county for lack of penalties being significant. It's how this affects the other taxing bodies, which is really the issue.
What is the time frame that you disperse funds?
Well, with the pay date of the first pay date being June, I'll disperse for the first time at the beginning of July. And then it's 1 month, every month after that you have to disperse.
What
Through
if,
the second payment.
what if we just give them 30 days grace period?
We've been down a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
You mean the penalty kicks in 1 month after instead of
Yeah.
September?
Yes.
That's a possibility.
I would feel more comfortable. One of the things, and of course, it all, so we do the resolution, but, okay, are we going to have a press release that says that this is what's gonna happen? And then you're going to have all of our businesses, Walmart and all of the industrial park and Rayner, all of our major taxpayers are gonna say, tax holiday, and we're gonna push this back because we're struggling as well. What we're contemplating is pretty significant. So
Depends on how
I
you
would,
for the taxes. That's the thing, you never know that.
I like the idea of a deferment of the penalty for 30 days.
Rather than essentially 90 days.
Except, yeah, for 90 days, because I think you'll have less of a disruption.
However many days. From the first installment to the second
Yeah, it's only
installment.
2 months.
That's 2 months.
It's 60.
60 days.
So you got a month to pay it in 30 days, so.
Yeah.
Tom Kitchen, do you feel that does enough for the taxpayer, or what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of hearing two things, Bob. Are we talking deferring the penalty payment until the second installment, or are we talking about deferring everything for 30 days?
No.
I think that the change on the table is, rather than saying penalties will kick in at the second date in September, they will kick in 30 days after the initial date. So it would be July 26th as opposed to September 2nd.
Right. Instead of having them pay them, normally you gotta pay them at the end of June.
Right,
Wow.
the penalties would kick in now without any change whatsoever. The penalties kick in on June 27th.
It's a good compromise, and I think whatever we can do to help is gonna be beneficial. And I certainly see both sides of what happens, as you said, to the big businesses. You know, we got a lot of people who can pay the taxes, wait till the very last minute, or even consider a month later, because it's a good loan, they think, you know? So anything we can do for those people, I hope it's a handful, but those people who are gonna have a tough time coming up with it. I can support the 30 days. I'd like to see it longer, but, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, there's small businesses that are hurting too, besides the Walmarts. I think it might help them.
No, it's
You know-
true, but you gotta treat everybody the same.
Oh, I know, but there's nothing to say that we can't meet in July and forgive the penalties too, if we see where this is at. I think it's a step,
That's true.
it's a stepping stone. Let's put that out there and see what happens. And then we can always forgive penalties later.
Okay, so do we have a motion on
This
the floor?
is Marilyn again.
Yes.
Paul, what percentage of taxpayers come in and, well, two questions here. What percentage of taxpayers come in early before that due date? I mean, before the last week of the due date? Let's say you come in, before June 20th. What percentage of taxpayers would come in and pay that first installment at least a week early? And what percentage of taxpayers pay both installments when they come in to pay the first?
I have not calculated those numbers. I can't answer that. I'd have to go back and calculate them. I don't know off the top of my head.
And I think that information is probably
Yeah.
null and void because it's gonna change the whole complexity of it, who's gonna pay what to who, when.
Why don't we do the 30 days and we revisit this next month? And we just keep revisiting, see how it's coming in and what's going on. We can always forgive penalties later.
I'd be willing to make that motion.
You got it first?
Second,
You know, read your motion.
Okay, I want to be clear, we're waiving the penalty until July 20, so effectively, we're making the first installment due date July 26th.
We're given 30 additional days to whatever the day is.
Yeah, so the due date would still be July 26th, but with a deferment of penalties to the 26th of July.
So
So that would be, huh? It would still be due June 26th, but the penalties wouldn't incur until July 26th.
I like that. I think that
That's a good compliment.
we got a first,
we need,
And you got that, Becky?
Yeah, and I got it on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, later.
Bob,
Yes,
we need to do a press release for this thing too, so people know what we're trying to do.
all right.
Once it passes the board sooner than later, you know, kind of prepared and get it out the next day.
I have a first. I think I got a second. You're like an
Yep.
auctioneer. You know, so.
Hang on.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion
Aye.
carried.
Just, who's gonna prepare the, press?
Oh.
I was hoping you would do that, Becky. Matt Klein, he's not doing anything. at
It's
home.
too late, call
Yeah,
over, raise your
yeah.
hand.
Let's see.
Are you doing?
I don't know.
All right, let's, look at setting the budget calendar. Does everybody have the calendar in front of them that, we handed out for setting the budget dates?
For today, yes, we have, for today, okay.
What do you recommend, Paula? What do you,
Well, okay, so I gave you the calendar, kind of just in a Word document, a calendar. And then we have to schedule there's budget chores at the top that we have to schedule. I kind of highlighted them. So that basically starts at the back end. You know, do it in reverse order and then that'll help us set. So if you flip to the last page, the budget needs to be on file in October 15th. I have set a date of September 29th, which would give me enough days to clean up everything and prepare the document for the 15th. So we need to set, first off, the days that you want to do the budget hearings. That would be sometime before September 29th. And then between those dates and September 29th, you guys are gonna need to finalize where we're at with things if you wanna make any changes or whatever. So I would recommend maybe setting those 3 dates of budget hearings sometimes toward the end of August.
yeah, like either week, the last 2 weeks of August, that would work good. The last week, we've got nothing on there. I don't know what vacations everybody's doing. Do we want to take this and come back next meeting, or do you want to set them today and everybody check it, or what do you want to?
Well, I kind of wanted to set them today if we could, because potentially by the June meeting, I'm gonna have to have budget packets out to the department heads.
What about the 25th, 26th, 27th of August? Would that work? Blair, Tom, Marilyn, will that work, you think?
I'm looking at my calendar right now.
Works for me, Bob.
Yeah, I'm good.
And the Monday night, we usually meet with the social services on the 24th, will that work?
Yeah,
Why don't we set that? If anybody has a problem, get hold of me or Paula and we'll talk to committee and change it, but let's tentatively set that for now.
so August 24th is a social services hearing, and then other budget hearings are the rest of that week?
Yep.
Okay. Then you guys need to, a couple of weeks before this, sometime in August, you want to set a couple of weeks that you will individually
Yep.
meet with your department heads?
If you give us a list, we'll divide them out at the next
Yeah.
meeting who wants to talk to me.
And we can do that in June.
Yep.
So do you want to set those couple of weeks, anytime, I guess, the first 3 weeks of August?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they turned in their paperwork, so then we're talking with them.
Okay, so I need 3 days so if let's see that here. I can have everything put together by the 5th.
So between the 5th and there, I think we can make it work.
The 5th of,
August.
Yep.
Sounds
So
good.
I can set the other things from there back, sending out things and
What do
giving
you got for
deadlines.
August?
She's gonna have all the information sent to her from.
From the department
For us to meet.
Yeah,
meet
so then
in the
we
middle.
meet after
Right,
that.
right, right.
So if I have them done and to you by, the 3rd of August, if I have them done to you, that gives you guys 3 weeks to meet with your departments.
Sure.
And then that goes into the official budget hearing week. And then we have a few weeks to make sure that everything is copacetic before. Okay, that'll work.
okay, so I,
Sounds like a plan.
so I understand this correctly, then August 3rd, you'll send out packets to department heads?
No, I will have everything back from the department heads and compiled. So
Oh, already.
I will finish this up and I'll probably be sending out packets to them by the end of June.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then social services would be August 24th,
yes.
and that's a night meeting, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, 7 o'clock or 6:30, whatever we normally do.
I'll
think
put
whatever was
6 or
last
7. And then the 25th, 26th, and 27th are the meetings with department.
Start at 9 o'clock till noon. If we got something that goes over one day, we'll schedule
Okay. All right, so I'll finish the other dates that the department has and we'll have an official budget.
Are you guys gonna have, like last year where you had designated people come to our office?
it. Yeah.
Right, and that'll be the first 3 weeks of August, sometime in there that will be time for people to coordinate. the schedules.
Yeah, yep. All right. I think we're good there.
All right, thank you.
Let's go to new business E, vacation buyback program. John Simonton, you want to talk about that or?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I talked to public safety yesterday about this, and so this initiative involved reviewing several criteria. One, minimum staffing, due to our 4 retirements, 2 plan to 1 plan, and the overtime impact that that's going to have on our department. And also the fact that I canceled vacations for the month of March and April for the staff, because I had no idea what we were about to get into with this COVID crisis. So I wanted everybody that we did have working, knowing that we were 4 short, plus we're still 1 short with Bill Presley being deployed in National Guard. He won't be back till the end of July. So we're hurting from a manpower perspective. And I also want to try to look at this from a budgetary perspective as well. How can we, by doing this vacation buyback program, save a little money for the county and save some money in our overtime budget at the same time? So reviewing this with the command staff and a few of the deputies as well had some input on this. We came up with an idea of the vacation buyback where we're proposing is the county could buy back or pay a deputy up to 5 days of vacation, unused vacation, for this particular year to offset some of our overtime costs. The savings generated will be basically that you're not paying that time and 1/2 overtime to backfill in shifts. So you're saving the half-time part of that proposal. So to give you a hard number for patrol, the average cost per hour is $27.94, almost $28 an hour. Time and a half, $41.92, almost $42 an hour. We have 1,248 hours of unused vacation right now in the patrol division. After crunching the numbers, the difference, if you pay them straight time versus time and a half, would be 17,500 hours. So that would be the savings. Corrections has 432 hours of unused overtime. They're a little bit less per hour, and the TCs are very close to what patrol is, but they have 696 hours of unused vacation time. In total, using percentages rather than numbers, we're going to save roughly 30% with this vacation buyback program in our overtime budget due to the staffing shortage. So what I'm proposing is this year is that we allow them to use up to 5 days of vacation time. The vacation time does not go annually. It is calculated by their anniversary date or their start date at the department. So some are coming up rather quickly, others maybe August, September, October throughout the year. So we'll use that systematically for each shift to try to get these people back working and filling a shift at straight time rather than time and a half. Does that make sense? I hope I explained it as good as I could. But
as long as we're talking broadly, I don't think so. I don't.
This is Marilyn.
We discussed that,
Just a second, Marilyn.
we discussed that yesterday in public safety. The sheriff didn't think there would be a union problem.
You know, executive session? Okay.
Because this is a material change in how is this with
We're having a discussion whether we should be talking about this in an executive session.
Well, I think, I know the sheriff says he's discussed this with some of the command staff, but should we do this, I think we needed an addendum to the contract that FOP has signed off on, as well as us. So this is touching on negotiations.
I agree, Marilyn. We're opening up that contract. We need that again. I agree.
I didn't hear you, Tom.
I agree with Marilyn. We're messing with that contract. We need them to sign off on it.
Yeah, I think if we're in agreement, then we'll ask for the sign off. I think we're just trying to figure out if it's something we want to do. Have you ever done this before, John, the department?
Not within the sheriff's department. When I was with the state police, we did have a similar circumstance where we did buy back some vacation time with them during another, I can't even remember the circumstance, but we were short-staffed and we needed people to work and we were trying to save some money on the overtime end of it. And they did give them an incentive by paying them cash for their unused vacation time. So, yeah, we did do it once. It's not widely used, but under the circumstances we're facing right now, you could potentially save, like I said, about 33% during this time period by doing it. So I thought it was a good initiative. It was brought up, not just by me, but by several others in the department, and which I thought was very gracious of them to think about this from the cost saving side as well, and also from the manpower and staffing side.
I think your 30% savings would be more than that by the time you figure your retirement stuff in there also. I mean, you're talking big. We got a question on the floor. What do we decide? Do we need to go to executive session or what?
You are talking compensation, so that would be under C1.
All right. Can we wait and we'll go into executive session and discuss this more than, I guess?
Certainly.
Better.
Yep, thank you.
We'll table it for now. But
I just kind of.
I agree. Let's go to new business F. Mike, we got IT department costs for computer security solutions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have, on the table right now, in my budget, I have budgeted $4,000 for my security solution because 3 years ago, it was $4,000. So fast forward to now, and I'm looking at a solution that covers antivirus, malware, spamware, ransomware, just everything. So the solutions, I did 3, and I apologize again, if you want me to go get them, I will. I did get 3 bids for 180 licenses for the county. This covers the entire county. One solution was 21,000. One solution was 12,400, we'll say, and one solution was 12,960, I believe. Again, those are ballparks, but the 21,000 was for a bottom tier solution. The 12,400 was for a bottom second level solution, and the 12,900 was for a solution that was their top tier solution. And I feel that that one covers what we need. They're a well reputable company. So my number would be, again, I think it was 12,960. That's for 3 years of coverage, but my budget only states I have 4,000 to cover it. So I don't know what you guys want me to do. Again, I've researched 3 companies, and this is a solution that, again, with everything going on right now, as Paul had mentioned, LaSalle got hit. There's no ever a guarantee of what you buy because of 0-day spam, ransomware coming out. But this solution does provide more adequate security. So I just wondered what you guys want me to do. It's 4,000 part of my line item.
But it's 4,000 a year for 3 years. The 12,000 is for 3 years, you told me, right?
Yeah, that's right, 12,900. Yeah, so, but we have to pay for it now. So, you know, my rest of my budget right now, with everything going on number wise, we're halfway there. I'm still spending, you know, I may end up with some money left over, so it cushions the blow, so to speak, but I need to, here's the other thing. My solution expires June 6th. So it's something I have to buy and get implemented, so.
Did you go through committee with this already, or?
Yeah, Judy and Bauer, still on there. Yeah, they told me to bring it to you guys, so.
All right. Judy, are you still there? Yes, Bob.
Yeah, it averages out to the same amount each year. The only problem is that he doesn't have that budget in his budget now to advance that for a 3-year period, where in the past we've been paying the 4,000 every year on a yearly basis. So basically what he needs is an approval for $8,900, and then probably that amount he would not need in his budget for next year and the ensuing year.
Yeah, I think.
Well, before we say that, that line item pays 4,000 for 3 years for my antivirus, and then the following year that amount pays for our firewall security for the internet. So I rotate it so next year. So no, it won't cover next year, unfortunately, but because I have to pay something else out of that, so I rotate it.
I think with this COVID-19, our budget, we're gonna have to readdress it anyhow. We gotta do this, I think. What's your thoughts?
You don't want to skimp on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Computer
this
security.
8,000-9,000 will cost us 50,000 later. Yeah.
And again, if budget comes out, I may end up with a little extra money at the end, and it might cover some of it.
I'm fine, Mike. I just, could we have some documentation or some a memo up? or-
I've got it all downstairs, I just had to get this.
Yeah,
going
if you
and stuff,
could
so.
just.
I got all of it.
something, you know, before next week, appreciate that, just so we have that documented.
Yeah, I got all 3 documents.
Okay.
Bids. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have any objection.
Alrighty. Do we need a motion for that or not?
We're going over.
I know, I think Marilyn, you usually say that if it's budgeted, but if it, and then goes into the red.
It's over budget.
Yeah.
We have to.
But it's over budget, so I think we should approve it. I believe it's something that, you know, we can't do without. And, Mike needs to get this in place by, what'd you say, June 5th or 6th?
Correct.
I'd entertain a motion to, go ahead and, pay the full amount for 3 years.
I make that motion.
Where's this?
So moved.
Dave.
Second by Merwin.
Budget has to come, so.
So if this is gonna run his budget over, then at the end of the year, when we do budget adjustments, we'll probably need to look at doing some adjustments in his budgets to cover this expense before year end.
We're gonna be over.
So we
all-
can do that year end. We don't have to do that now.
We'll make it right before year end. We'll do it.
That's what we typically have done is if it goes to the rent, because again, another line item might be 1,000 plus, and then we don't.
Who's second?
Second.
I've got David, was it David?
David, yeah.
Jim?
All right.
David made the motion, and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And you got my note about Terry, the doors at animal control.
Yeah.
Doesn't take us long to spend whatever the sheriff's trying to save, did it?
So,
Exactly, Tom.
this ain't on our agenda, but you wanna, animal control, you wanna talk to us about the doors?
Oh, see, there's two outside entrance doors for animal control that are in bad shape that, we're looking to replace. And then also to provide some security, system. And what we did out at, the food pantry, and I think was applicable here, very affordable, is, using a Simply Safe system. And you can do monitoring for $25 a month. So that's really what we were looking at. I don't have that number, the total number there. Yeah.
Does Terry? Oh, wait a minute.
I think, I don't know, I had said a note, but I think I remember what it was, I got away, I don't wanna say.
It's $15.90.
How much?
$15.90 at $700 for 2 doors at $350 a piece, and $240 for the electronic lock, which would be $120.
Yeah.
And then the Simply Safe alarm system is the same. You want the check?
No, we're good.
This is Terry.
Yes.
Oh, here it is.
Go ahead, Terry.
That Simply Safe, we've been looking at systems, and that might be ended up coming in cheaper than that $650. And plus, we're looking to make sure I don't really want a monthly fee. And Simply Safe does have a monthly fee if you want, like, I don't know, things that I don't really think we need. So that number may come down at $650.
And we've got it in your budget for that, or
That,
No,
no, yeah, that's a problem.
all right.
it might be such a thing like Mike, I might be over on some other line items, but not, in some, so it just might be an adjustment.
Between funds.
Yep, between both funds, and one we can use it out of, we can't use for, so yes. I think we'll make a motion and vote that through, but I want to segue into our other issue that I talked to you about. So, any other questions for this?
What was the total cost?
$15.90.
Okay. Thank you.
And our maintenance, to be clear, our maintenance guys will be doing the work.
It shouldn't be over $15.90, sounds like it might be a little cheaper than that, but, worst case scenario, $15.90. I'd entertain a motion to pass this.
And make that motion.
Dave makes a motion.
Second.
Tom Kitchen made the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. While we're on this, the finance committee, sometimes Dave is fixing something or, like we ran into with the fire alarm and stuff like that. And he calls me and, he wants approval to, order of work. Is there a dollar amount that the committee would be fair with to say, Dave, if it's over, say, $3,500, come to the committee, otherwise just go ahead and take care of it, it's in the budget? Does anybody have a problem with that, or,
As long as it's in the budget.
yeah,
If something's in the budget, it can be, go ahead and do it.
Right.
yeah, but sometimes,
Our problem,
sometimes we don't know if it's in the budget or not, and we're trying to make it work, but, I'm just trying to make it easier for Dave. He'll call me and I'll speak for everybody unless unless it's big, then I'll do a call around if it's something that I think it's really uncomfortable, but I would like to give him some directive of a dollar amount. It says, hey, if it's $3,500, it just saves him some time doing it, and we're gonna fix it anyhow, I think,
Go ahead, Marilyn.
I think we need to stick within the budget. You know, maybe if he's pulling it from a different line item in the budget, but, you know, if it's something he needs to do and there is money in the budget, do it. But, you know, when, the rubber meets the road, when that budget runs out.
yeah, so if that comes to it, I'll call you, but, it just to make it easier for him, don't you think, Dave? Sometimes it's, redundant for him to call me about a $500 door. Not that it's not bothering me, but yes, go ahead and fix it, that thing. And, Dave's bringing it to our attention because he wants to be totally, transparent. Tom Kitson.
The only concern is, and it's no offense to Dave or to you, Bob, but once we set that standard down the road at some point, we tie 2 or 3 things together to get ourselves $10,000 for something. We kind of worked around to get it rather than that 3,500. No offense to anybody involved now.
Yep.
But I'm just looking forward to protect the future.
All right.
Good
Well,
thought, Tom, I agree.
we'll continue going like we are then. So that's all right. I just wanted to ask.
Thank you.
2020 election security, John, you want to talk about that? Simonton?
Sure. Well, I've had some brief conversations with Kathy Myers. I think, and I sent you and the chairman some numbers on what that may entail. It's going to be a little bit less than what I previously sent you because Kathy corrected some of the dates that I had on there, and days that we would actually be at the old courthouse to help provide some security and direction more than anything else for the voting, early voting. I believe it starts September 24th, if I'm correct, and goes through like the into the first week in November. So you got the hourly wage times the amount of hours, days that court security will be working over there. I think in the past, Kathy has budgeted for the actual election day security because we have someone there most of the day and certainly the evening during the count. So you have the numbers in front of you, and so that's up to you to decide if that's what you'd like to do. I did not budget for that additional security over there, so that'd be something we'd have to consider.
I think, go ahead.
John, just a question. I'm happy to tell you, I'm sitting home nice and safe and taking care of myself. And I have no idea what you guys are doing every day, but I do appreciate what you're doing. But that said, what are we doing right now with bailiffs in the courthouse? We're not having court except in emergencies, is that correct?
No, there are some hearings. Charlie can tell you exactly what hearings are actually being heard right now. It is very limited. I think Judge Acker gave me a figure of maybe 20, 25% at the most of what the normal activity is. So I have reduced the amount of security at the courthouse. Some days there's only 2, just Ed and a bailiff at the front door. Other days when we have court going on like today, some video arraignment where we have to move some people around a little bit, I may have 3 on duty. So it is a limited staff. It's not a full staff.
If things continue like they are, can we use those other bailiffs to do this rather than overtime or extra staff? Or am I lost?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't explain it very clearly, Tom. We would be using as much as I can court security at their rate rather than a full-time deputy for this type of operation.
So, but wouldn't those, I'm just trying to understand, John, are those the same people that would normally be at the courthouse taking care of court cases, assuming we're in the same situation then that we are now?
That would be the division I would get these people from, yes. It'd be a combination of our court security and part-time transport people that would be doing this security at the old courthouse predominantly. Now, the only caveat to that is I have to be careful with the amount of hours that they're working throughout the year because most are retired from another job and they're either limited to 600 or 1,000 hours or less per year to work. Otherwise, it impacts their retirement system. So if I get to the point where we can't get anybody, there may be a time where it would be a deputy or myself to fill in those gaps if we have to.
Okay,
So I'll try to.
That's fine. I was just curious how that was working, John. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, John, we got Kathy here now, you got anything you want to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to say that it could, if we find that, we're starting out slowly, and I think that, we could get by for a few days in September and just try to kind of gauge as our traffic picks up. But again, just not knowing what is going to be happening come September and what we might have for crowds coming into the old courthouse. And again, trying to keep that social distancing.
I was gonna stop and talk to you, there might be some funds available for the COVID-19 too that will help pay for this. That, we could talk to Kevin about too, maybe, I don't know if that would go in line with that, with extra security we need with what's going on, if we get reimbursed for that, so, I mean, I think one way or another, this will be covered.
Yeah, and again, I think as I said to you, I always budget for the worst and hope for the best. So if I have extra funds in my election line item, I am more than happy to pay for the bailiffs from those funds that would be available. But again, I won't know what those dollar amounts are until I get closer to the election.
And we really don't know what we're gonna have to do for the election either, so,
Correct.
I think we have no choice in this, we gotta provide security, and we just gotta go forward. Keep county government moving forward, so we'll figure it out.
This is something that we will apply for reimbursement for, Bob, because it is directly COVID related if we have to work this procedure like we're talking today. If things don't change.
That's what I meant in the email when I talked to her. I didn't need to avoid you in the email. I was just not gonna talk to you personally about it. All right. I don't think we need to vote on this, do we?
So just so long as everybody's aware of what our plan is.
Yep.
I have one other thing, it's kind of semi-related, is when the Old Courts building opens up, we want to put in kind of barriers between, on the desks in Kathy's department and where the public is coming in.
Sure.
As we see at most retail places, a shield between to help with, germs and that type of thing, and also a little bit of additional security. What we were looking at was a more permanent solution like we have over at the circuit clerk's office. Greg Saunders is getting bids on that from our two suppliers for that. We'd like to do something. We don't believe that issue, I think, is going to be an ongoing advantage, I guess, to health and safety of our people. So we'll come back once we have numbers. That may, in talking with the sheriff, there may be some reimbursement with COVID available there as well.
Now, do we have to have a polling place here? Can we move it somewhere more, I guess, not away from our staff or?
No matter where you put it, you would still have to have the same amount of staff to.
Oh, okay, I just worried about everybody else in the building, where I was, I'm sure you'll figure that out. Gotta be a way to keep them isolated.
Hey, Bob?
Yes.
Can we just keep this on the agenda for the preceding months?
Yep.
So we don't lose track of this and we make sure we're ready for Kathy when it happens?
Yeah. But I think Kathy knows that we're behind whatever we need to do to make it work.
Right.
And for safety, and John will supply the bailiffs if we need them, so. All right.
Don't forget them.
Yes, Paula has a couple things. I think we're good there, right?
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Paula.
So first, I wanted to just mention that we talked a few months ago about upgrading our Blackbaud Financial Edge software, and that is done. There was a couple of bugs, but we've worked through it, so that's been fine. The second thing I wanted to mention, kind of building on, we've got a lot of people who may be approaching the courthouse to pay taxes coming up in a week and a half. So we, a little unorthodox, but we're going to take payments through a window on the first floor on the north side of the building. So there's a couple of,
Can I drive up there or not?
no, you're gonna have to walk. I've
Comes with a handle.
working with Mike as far as moving some computers in to that location, and working with Greg to take some screens off some windows, and so they aren't gonna actually have to come into the building. They may not like standing outside, but there are a number of other options for paying your bill. You can do it online, you can mail it in, you can go to a bank, you can go to your bank's website and kick off a check. So I would hope that their last resort would actually be physically showing up here. Since the building is closed through June, the whole first payment will come in. So we're gonna open these windows up. We're working on that over the next couple of days. So little unorthodox, but then what isn't right now?
Yep.
A little unorthodox. So the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is I gave you all, and I emailed these also, and some emails just came out this morning, but I did give you the updated history on the sales tax and income tax that we've collected. Right now, it does not look to me like we are seeing a reduction in the monthly amounts that we get from the state, but this is only through February. So I'm gonna guess next month, we're gonna see quite a difference, but you do have that history for your information as to how that's going. I also sent you 4 different colored graphs on a document. This is a graph of last year's cash basis financials. So in the general fund, this is the general fund. And I've also rolled into that because I consider it a general fund issue, is the capital funds. So I just wanted to point out a couple things on here as to what we might see happen in the future. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen because this is an unprecedented situation. I don't have a crystal ball. I'd love to have a crystal ball, so if anybody has one that they'd like to share with me, I would love it. But so the first page is page 1 of 4 is revenues, the general fund revenues. What I think we're gonna see a reduction in is fees, which is 19% of our revenues. We're probably gonna see a reduction there because we do have reduced court cases and giving off traffic tickets, and all of that has kind of slowed down. So we're gonna see a reduction there. How much? I don't know. We're gonna see a reduction in sales tax, which is 15% of our revenues. And we're gonna see a reduction in income tax, which is income taxes and personal property replacement tax, which is just the corporate income tax in the state of Illinois. So about 52%, between those 3 things, that's about 50, last year it was 52% of our revenues. So in half of our revenues are probably gonna see a reduction coming up, just as an FYI. Second page is broken down by department. So page 2 of 4 are the expenses broken down by department. Gives you kind of an idea of where our money goes by department. So the sheriff's office is obviously our biggest department, biggest push out there, and they're at 41%. The court services, if you take from circuit clerk through state's attorney, probation, public defender, and to the judges, that's 21% of your operating budget, your general operating budget. And then there's a breakdown of other issues. The general fund is 6%. I call it not general fund, it's the general overhead department in the general fund. I have it listed, that's 6%. A lot of that, almost 400,000 of that is medical expenses that the county is picking up. That's probably a longer conversation as to how the medical insurance is covered. A lot of the expenses are covered by the employees and by the employees department, but 400,000 of it is not covered by the employees or their department. So that's what's there. Maintenance costs, anyway, so that's just for your perusal. The third page is taking those same expenses and breaking it down by type of expense, not by department. So as you can see, between benefits, overtime, part-time wages, and full-time wages, 75% of our expenses are personnel costs. And we also have another 16% that is contractual costs, which I thought was interesting that it was actually that much. So page 4 breaks down the contractual costs, that's 16% by department. So, and again, I guess the county clerk has a big chunk of that. That is her real estate tax. Her real estate deed transfer stamps is $150,000 a year, almost $150,000. And her election costs are almost $200,000 a year. So that's why she's so large. The sheriff also has a very big chunk. His last year, which should be quite reduced this year, $165,000 went to transportation of prisoners or housing them elsewhere. And also just paying for the prison costs of medical costs and everything. That was $75,000 last year. So that's just to give you some food for thought as you're considering the difficulties that we're looking at coming up.
You know, there's a lot of good information there, Paula, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
The first
So-
page, when she talked about the sales tax, usually when you have a downturn or something, you have savings on, your cost, you're doing business, but on these two, there's no savings, it's all
Right.
comes out of the top end.
It's just nothing but a lose-lose out there, no matter where you go.
We'll get through it though. We'll get through it.
Small businesses to Walmart.
Yep.
This is Trucker Road.
Yes,
I wanted to compliment when you're talking about money and everything being down. It's not a great part of the budget, but kudos to Kathy Myers and her staff because I expected their stuff to be down too. And Kathy told us on Monday that documents are actually up, probably because of some refinancing. But they're issuing a lot of marriage licenses and a few other things. So I was just very surprised that that wasn't down more than it is. So just kudos there.
you know, all department heads, everything has been seamless through all of this, and I mean, there's been a lot of changes, and all the employees have taken it in stride, so I mean, it's really something to be proud of. All right. That being said, let's, I take a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I'll move.
At, 10:50. I've got a first and a second, and Tom Kitson.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought it was,
Yeah, it was Liz.
Larry, I'm sorry.
which, so which one was it?
There.
10:50.
Jim and Larry.
Jim Blair. And what time is
10:50.
So you're gonna have people
it?
disconnecting,
Yeah, we'll have to have them disconnect from Zoom, we'll have to do it here.
do it there.
Because we can't come back in on the live stream here.
Oh,
If we
right.
Disconnect, so we'll have to go to the other, just call it off.
So what's that do for the backup, for people signing into the,
I need the sheriff. I
Let's
need-
bring the phone back in.
no, I mean, do we put a note or something? on the
Yeah,
front of
yeah,
the
somebody-
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
but some of them may or may not disconnect here.
All right.
To join you there.
What about, I don't mean to think, but what about the county board members that want to be on there? They can go in there and we'll be on.
Whoever wants to, just let us know. I guess I can only merge in 5 though.
I can merge in a couple, so, yeah. All right.
Well, hold on, how many we have up? The,
Judy and Marilyn.
Yeah, cause you have to go completely away from Zoom.
So we can't do it with this, just get rid of the,
You can, I mean, no, because,
The live stream's still there.
the live stream's still here too.
shut it off.
You didn't hear that, Charlie?
well, can't we
The
bring that
breaker.
back? Can we close it off and bring it back?
Once you stop the live stream, then
Oh, it's over.
it's over. Can't continue.
All right, gotcha.
I guess, we're gonna go in the other room, text us who wants on, and we'll go get everybody back on executive in there, I guess.
You're gonna call us in, Bob?
Yep, somebody will call you.
All right, thank you.
So do we need roll call going into?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Jim Sheeline,
Aye.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
Bob Olson,
Yes.
Marilyn Shepherd,
Yes.
Judy Truckenbrod,
No, there.
or Laram, I'm sorry, Laram,
Yes.
Laram,
Tom Kitson.
Yes.
Tom Kitson.
Yes.
So, yeah.
All right, now shut my recorder off.
Oh, we just want to talk about, the buying the vacation with the sheriff. No, nothing.
It's not a thing that you
You want to go in executive session and talk about it.
I just,
Public safety.
once we do something in one department,
You guys
Just
do-
wanna
I
have-
a couple of things.
You guys
in a month.
Yeah. No, but
I just want you to understand.
What's good for one is good for all, and I don't want Charlie doing nothing.
Make sure you shut the door to Charlie.
Here, Charlie, put it in there.
Yeah, there you go.
So you, good there. I'm sorry, if they're on here and in there, make sure they're not talking.
Yeah. Well, it looks like they're maybe muted already too. Yeah. So as long as we don't unmute.
Judy's not, Naren's not. So.
All right, we'll start off.
Yeah, just enough. Thank you. Okay.
Charlie.
To defend my.
Yeah, I agree with Marlon. I'd like to see it, so it's tied to the contract for those same obvious reasons. I agree with Jim that we want to make sure it doesn't, roll over somewhere else, but to make sure it's a 1 year thing. Is Charlie on board with this before we do it? We need to have some legal representation, whether it's a contractual attorney. Just to make sure everything's on board the right way, Yeah, I think we need to do that. I'm just afraid if we don't, we open the door to a lot of other issues. And I don't want to be paranoid either, but well, no other department has the same issue. So just, yeah.
Yes. So I appreciate my here. You didn't know back to
No, hold on.
Everybody unmute their Zoom so we can,
Okay, we're back in open
You're,
session.
you're good.
I need roll call vote.
I moved to come out of executive session.
got a motion to come out of executive session, I got a second. I'm gonna do a voice vote, so we know that everybody's on, which I guess we gotta do a voice vote anyhow, probably on this. So, go
Bob
ahead.
Olson,
Yes.
Marilyn Shippert,
Yes.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
Tom Kitson,
Yes.
Larry Mamini,
Yes.
and Jim Sheeline.
Yes.
All right, I think that covers everything. You got anything else to bring up?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Got first, second, Jim first, Dave second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
All
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
right,
everybody.
stay safe.
Sorry, didn't hang up.
Done?
You wanna sit here?
Are you done?
Yeah. Yep.
You sit up here. I got piles and piles.
You know, I'm moving my file all the time.
Trying to figure out